Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Thursday Live with American Truth Project. I'm your host, Barry Newsbaum, and we have a very special guest today. We have Lieutenant Colonel Dave Grossman, U.S. Army retired. Welcome, Dave. Let me tell them about you just real quick. Former West Point psychology professor, Army Ranger. Thank you for your service. An author, a public speaker. He's written a whole bunch of books on Army warfare and the psychology of fighting. A couple of them are called On Killing, On Combat, On Hunting, On Spiritual Combat, and other books. He is a lecturer, he's an expert, and we're thrilled to have you here with us, Dave.
Honored to be on board, Barry.
Welcome to have you. Let's just jump in. We have so much to talk about. I apologize for getting started late. Satellite hookup problem today, as often happens from where we broadcast from. We're going to start with the open border policy of Joe Biden. There are various estimates that between 10 and as many as 20 million illegals were let into the country by an administration that bragged about open borders. And yet they would send Alejandro Mayorkas to Congress, who would just lie his ass off, saying, oh, the borders are secure. We know who's coming in. And then when people like the very brave governor of Texas, Abbott, would put up fencing, Joe Biden would send bulldozers to knock the fencing down. You know, when I was in political science a million years ago, one of the things they taught us is the first thing about creating a country is borders and being able to defend your borders and being able to have an integrity to your borders. And without that, you're nothing. You're like a ship at sea. So
Amen.
let me first show you how bad it has been. And then I want your comment on this mess. It's hard for me to watch that without having my blood boil. That was one group coming north because they got cell phones and they got ATM cards and they got invitations and they had instructions in Espanol about what to do when they got to the border. Dave, you're a security expert. How dangerous are those 10 or 20 million that are still running around the United States? We have no idea where most of them are.
Just one in a million is 10 Bondi Beaches. Just one in a million is 10 9/11s. One can shut down the California power grid. One can assassinate a beloved charismatic leader. None of them should be here. One is one too many. These are 10 million reasons to be in fear for the survival of our nation.
Well said. So what do you do about it? You know, I look at the polling, and Trump's strongest numbers, Colonel, are on the fact that he has secured the border. And border crossings are down 99.9% just because you can't have 100. And interdictions at the border where they catch Miguel and his family, or Miguel and Juan and three guys that look like they just broke out of a jail in Venezuela. Uh, Interdictions are down 99%. So the problem is fixed, but the tumor is still in America. Is what we're doing enough? And I say we, I mean the country, specifically ICE, border protection, and so on.
You and I, we remember the Cold War. Now, we've been around this block before. What I think it's time for is to consider all the aspects of the Cold War and Cold War 2.0. We have a successful model. And the president is starting by cleaning up. Now, we know these people are responsible for thousands of murders, thousands of rapes, tens of thousands of assaults and robberies, fraud by the billions. And it starts by cleaning up internally, and he's doing that. And then the external threat. So there's a model here, and it is a threat to our survival. And you and I remember that we've got a past model for success: Cold War 2.0, containment 2.0, clean house indoors, and fight the good fight around the world.
So I get it. So tell me this, Colonel Dave. Something like over 1 million have been captured, either self-deportation or rounded up and put on planes and buses by ICE and Customs and Border Protection and the Department of Justice and so on. We've got a long way to go. I don't understand why there are thousands of people in the street defending these criminals. And they're not just criminals because they broke into the country, contrary to what Don Lemon lies about on the air all the time. It's not a crime. They are just not legal, or they don't have the proper immigration status. It's a violation of the federal constitution and the federal law to break into the country illegally. They are felons. They are not just traffic tickets. But that notwithstanding, as you've pointed out, a lot of them kill Americans and rape girls and women and burn houses and extortion. And not to mention the Somali community that maybe got away with $7 or $9 billion. Why are the fights going on in the street today to protect these criminals?
First off, they're voters. They're Biden voters. They're left-wing voters. It's a plan to bring in voters. But second off, the people that are defending them, the left, their biological response is to roll over and expose their belly to true evil. Their biological response in the face of truth, they know that Trump won't come and kill them unless they try to run him down with a car. But they know that these people are evil in the face of communism, socialism, in the face of rapists and killers, in the face of militant Islam. It's a biological hardwired response to roll over and expose their belly to evil. And part of it is politics. And part of it is mental illness. These people are truly mentally ill, borderline personality disorder.
I'm not going to argue with you. When I look at some of the videos where the ICE agents are just getting barraged by the purple hair, nine piercing, cross dressing, pronoun hating, whatever you call them. Well, just take a look.
ICE is trying to kidnap our neighbors off the street.
That's Walker Shelley.
I was standing in a crosswalk. We cannot stand as New Yorkers for this to happen.
Are we the only country in the world that would put up with this? I mean, outside of France and maybe Great Britain. I mean, if this was Moscow, if this was Beijing, if this was Tehran, there would be overwhelming force. The brutality would be horrific, and everything would stop instantly. But we don't behave like that because we're Americans.
Yeah. That in the face of the evil that Israel faced on October 7th, they came down on the side of Hamas. These are the same people supporting Hamas in the face of that evil. And it's all politics, mental illness, and a biological process. They have chosen to be the sheep and not the sheepdog. You know, Islam hates dogs. We love dogs. That should decide the situation right now. They have chosen to be livestock. They have chosen to be the sheep and not the sheepdog. So what the answer is truly Cold War 2.0. The answer is to circle the wagons, to focus our resources, and to make, John F. Kennedy called for a new Minuteman in the Cold War. And we're talking about a new Minuteman, a sheepdogs who rally together to protect and stand up against evil, as opposed to choosing to be livestock in the face. Livestock's a survival mechanism. There's a billion cows on the planet. There's a billion sheep on the planet. Livestock is a survival mechanism. But as for me and my family, we choose to be the sheepdog and not the livestock.
Well, Colonel, we need a lot more sheepdogs on the streets of New York, San Francisco, Los Angeles, Chicago, Philadelphia, because when I look at what happened in Minneapolis, and it's still going on there, you've got the governor of the state. This is not a joke for those that don't know this. And the mayor, literally, of Minneapolis calling for doxing of these ICE agents and following them home and videotaping their family and where they go to church and who gets to pick up the kids at school. I mean, this is civil insurrection like I have never seen against a federal government who is just trying to enforce the law that they were passed for. They're not making up their own rules. These are laws.
It's not happening in any other state. It's a product of their leadership. It's not happening next door in North Dakota or Michigan. It's a product of their leadership. And we can watch what's happening. We can see 50 laboratories for democracy and say, this is broken.
Oh boy, is it ever. It's broken and been run over by a steamroller at this point. So I'm just checking the feed. Jared Kushner is in Moscow right now. I mean, right now, meeting with Putin, supposedly about the Board of Peace in Gaza. And while that's going on, there's this commentary that Russia doesn't have the manpower, the weaponry, or the, shall we say, the backbone to take Ukraine. China might be taking Taiwan soon. They're making the noises like they are. Meanwhile, Islam is winning everywhere. They have conquered most of Western Europe. Spain is gone. France is gone. Belgium, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, and oh boy, Great Britain. They're fighting back in Italy. They've got a conservative prime minister. And the only people that seem to be immune from the hordes of rape gangs running down the street are the Poles, who have closed their borders, and the Hungarians. You can go out at 3:00 in the morning, a single woman, and not worry about being attacked. The way I see it, Islam is winning. Christianity, Judaism, and I might add, civilization is losing. Look how bad it is in Europe. It's much worse than here. That's anarchy. That's a full breakdown of civilization. And the police are just trying to clear the streets. Remember, there's an Islamic call to prayer that goes off about every 2 hours. And they're supposed to, according to the religion, go to the mosque and pray in the mosque. But the way they show dominance and takeover, as you will, they do it in the streets. They take over the streets. And the police let them do it. And so the more they let them do it, the more they get away with, until you get what you just saw from Germany, where literally you take your wife and kids down the street, you can't go. They canceled several hundred Christmas celebrations in France and Germany for fear of offending the Muslim populations. That's incredible. These are Christian countries. They can't celebrate the birth of their savior in their own country because they're going to offend the people that just showed up from Morocco or Iraq or Afghanistan and so on.
Barry, the director of national intelligence said that Islamism is the, quote, greatest near and long-term threat to both our freedom and our security. The greatest near and long-term threat to both our freedom and our security. So it sounds to me like it's time to get back to war. We remember the Cold War, Cold War 2.0. Russia can't take Ukraine. China might take Taiwan. They're a long-term threat, but Islam is taking Europe. It's the number one threat. And we have a model in mind. And if they get Europe, they get nukes. Got to stop them now. It's time for a new Cold War, new containment, Cold War 2.0.
You might be right in terms of stopping them now. What I see is a backlash as the pendulum begins to swing back to the right. You know, the various countries with parliaments are rejecting the left. That's how you have a conservative in Italy. That's how you have conservatives in Poland. You have a conservative in Hungary. And
the Conservative Party in Germany being outlawed.
Yeah, exactly. But they're leading in the polls. It's the Conservative Party of Le Pen in France that was outlawed, and they went to court and prevented her from running, or she would have won in a landslide. Eventually, what's going to happen, I think, God willing, before it's too late, is that pendulum swings back and they go, okay, this was a social experiment in politics that was a disaster. We've got to dig ourselves out of it before there are no churches left and there's nowhere to walk in the street at noon because it's been taken over by roving Muslim gangs who make it very clear our goal is to conquer you, Belgium, you, Sweden, you, Denmark, you, France, and on and on and on.
We must fear for the survival of our nation, Barry. Our president told Europe that this is killing them. The vice president has told them. The DNI has told us. And so once again, it's time for a systematic, organized response to this threat. It's time for a new Cold War. It's time for a new Minuteman, for American sheepdogs. The yappy little sheepdog online, the guard dog, the security dog, the sheepdog. Islam hates dogs. It's time for the sheepdogs to rise up and defend their nation.
From your mouth to God's ears, as my late mother used to say. The Islamic invasion of our college campuses has not stopped, contrary to what people may believe based on the fines that the Justice Department is assessing left and right. There's a Columbia University professor, this is unbelievable, who literally praised the October 7th massacre of men, women, and children in Israel while he was in the classroom at Columbia. This is this ass. His name is Joseph Massoud, and he has been retained. He just got his contract renewed, which I find unbelievable. He teaches modern Arab politics and intellectual history. And he says that Hamas, this is not a joke, these are quotes. What Hamas did on October 7th in southern Israel with the slaughter of men, women, and children, beheading families in front of the rest of the family, putting babies in ovens, kidnapping people, raping wives in front of their husbands. He called it awesome, incredible. He said that the basis of future assaults on the Jewish state must copy what happened on October 7th. He said the paragliders who flew into the music festival and machine gun men, women, children, Arabs and Jews alike, Christians as well, from the sky, from their kites, was an example of the Palestinian Air Force. These quotes are horrible, absolutely horrible. And yet,
professor who's had his contract renewed.
Oh yeah, he's back.
Yep.
I mean, he the word was he was going to be suspended. The Colombian Anti-Semitism Task Force said, you got to get this guy out of here. He's literally preaching literally preaching for another Holocaust. And what happens? He is there and not being bothered. That strikes me as absolutely unacceptable.
It's evil.
And yet,
It's evil.
he's still at Columbia with a brand new contract, Joseph Mossad. Isn't that wonderful? And you wonder why Trump, God bless him for this, is saying we are not going to put up with this anymore. And when I say this, when you look at what's going on at Columbia, it's horrible there. It is horrible there, and it's still happening. They're not occupying the quad anymore. They're not breaking into buildings anymore. That's an improvement. But if you happen to take a class, you're going to hear, geez, wasn't it great that all these people got slaughtered? Wasn't that just wonderful? I find it absolutely unbelievable.
You know, Barry, in Pearl Harbor, almost exactly the same number, within a few hundred, the same number of people were murdered by the Japanese in Pearl Harbor in a military target. We starved them, we nuked them, we bombed them into submission. When that happened to civilian targets in Israel, people stood up and defended it and stood up for it. It's evil. It's mentally ill. We got to stand up for it every step of the way.
Couldn't agree with you more. Couldn't agree with you more. There are a number of videos, Colonel, circulating with Tucker Carlson now as the chief apologist. Get this, for Iran, for the mullahs that are slaughtering people. He has appeared on his own show saying, "Yeah, what's so bad about Sharia? You know, you can walk down the street in Qatar and no one's going to bother you." Yeah, because if someone steals from you, they cut off the guy's hand, and if he runs away, they cut off his feet. So, yeah, it's a little bit extreme. Christianity is outlawed, except in certain places where you can have a church if it's a license by the state. So the repression is unbelievable. Here's where it gets really, really, really strange. In Iran, there's no internet, there's no phone service, there's no satellite. You can't communicate with anyone. There's a television station run by the government. Okay? It's the government controlled television station. There's one guy who they put on the air with Farsi, which is Persian, translations. It's Tucker Carlson being played on Iranian TV. You think I'm kidding? Here it is.
Stop, Armin. So the Islamic regime right now is literally broadcasting Tucker Carlson interviews in Persian on their 24-hour news channel. The country is in a state of chaos, and yet for some reason, the Islamic regime is choosing to play Tucker Carlson interviews because this is like, you know, it's Islamist propaganda. I'm just filming this right now because if I didn't do this, no one would believe. This is literally what's going on in occupied Iran right now.
That's unbelievable. You mentioned to me it's like Tokyo Rose, you know, during World War II. Yeah, this is the same thing. I mean, this guy is a traitor to the United States. He's siding with the country that posts death to America every single day. Yesterday, supposedly, Iran test fired an ICBM, an intercontinental ballistic missile that they say can reach the United States, including Washington and New York. And they're declaring they're intending to destroy America and kill Trump. And who is their spokesman? Tucker Carlson is on television there.
You know, this brings us back to the Cold War. And that was our great achievement. You and I, our generation, was to defeat this monolithic evil. And one of the things we did was registering foreign students. Tucker Carlson looks like Islam's Tokyo Rose, his Baghdad Bob. And this is the kind of thing we did in the Cold War, was registering foreign agents acts. It's got to be expanded. If Tucker is funded by Islam, it sure looks like it, then we need to make the world know that this man is a stooge of the declared enemy of our civilization. Our government has the mechanism to do that with the Foreign Agent Registration Act. We can do this. We've been around this block, Cold War 2.0.
Goodbye, Tucker. As far as I'm concerned, I've had it with him. His money is coming from Muslim investors. He said I'll never move to Qatar, and then he announces he's buying a house there. He's there all the time. He literally has gone to the White House twice in the last week to meet with Trump, supposedly bringing messages from the Qatarians and so on. Oh my God.
He has literally
Um,
sold his soul. He has sold his soul.
uh, I think that he put a price on it and they paid it because they've got $100 billion to spend in any given week, and apparently he's getting it. When I think about stooges, here's one of my favorites. Congressman Eric
Hmm.
Swalwell from California became infamous a few years ago because he got caught in an affair with a Chinese spy that she was being called Fang Fang, and she was a spy for the CCP, the Communist Chinese Party, and he stayed in the House, and now he wants to be governor of California. And he literally, this is not a joke. I'm reading it, but I can't believe it. He has a plan. He says he wants to revoke the driver's licenses of all U.S. Customs Enforcement agents in California if they happen to wear a mask to protect their identities so they're not followed home. He says that will keep ICE out of California because, as you said earlier in a segment, and I think you're right, California let in millions and millions and millions and millions and then registered them all as Democrats, even though that's illegal. You're supposed to be a citizen to be able to vote. That's one of your first rights when you become a legal citizen, like my mom and dad were so proud when they could finally vote. We don't do that, at least not lately.
When the
We let in a
very
lot of people, and because they're let in, because they're registered, it changes the makeup of the House, right?
Yes.
It's based on the census. Every 10 years, they adjust the number of seats. If you've got an extra million people, then your state, California, gets another 2 seats or whatever. Eric Swalwell wants to make sure that all the illegals that were let in by their governor, Gavin Newsom, and by their president, Joe Biden, get to stay. What do you think of his plan?
When the very first thing you do when you come to the nation is to break the law, this is not a good trend. When the very first act is break the law, it's downhill from that point.
Well, that's what they're doing in California. And those of us that used to be there are very happy we're not anymore because, well, it's a zoo in a lot of places. And when you go to San Francisco and you rob as much as you can carry at the CVS pharmacy, but as long as it's under $98, you don't go to jail. In fact, you're not even allowed to call a cop, but you can shoot up on the streets. You can use the street for a toilet. And that's why property values are off a cliff. Biggest homeless population in America.
Think about this, Barry. If a tornado hits your house and puts your family in the hospital, thank God they're alive. Criminals break into the house, beat your family in a hospital stay. Now, what's your response? So, violent crime, interpersonal human aggression. I wrote the book on combat. I wrote the book on killing. Interpersonal human aggression, violent crime, is the single most corrosive, toxic, destructive thing any human being will face. It's the thing most likely to cause PTSD. People get hurt all the time. They don't get PTSD. They get PTSD because somebody tries to hurt them. And so this crime is the biggest drag on the economy and the biggest psychological blow any government could inflict upon their citizens, and they're doing it on purpose systematically. It's evil.
I agree. And it's got to be cleaned up. And God forbid if this guy ever becomes governor of California, you thought the last guy was bad. This is going to be terrifying.
And don't say it'll never happen, because look what happened in New York.
Oh, yeah. Which I never saw that one coming. And boy, are they sorry already. He's only been in office for a month. Unbelievable. Actually, less than a month. Quick commercial break. If those of you that drink coffee out there, we've got a special coffee offer for you from Blackout Coffee. If you go to their website and you mention us, you get a special discount. It's on your screen. You can scan it with your phone. You get 20% off in your entire order. We sent you. Go enjoy Blackout Coffee Company. I think you will enjoy it.
By the way, I love Blackout. It's one of
There
my
you,
favorites.
love
Yeah.
to hear it. Love to hear it. Um, you were a professor at West Point, our Army Academy. Thank you so much for that. You wrote the definitive books on combat, on killing, and on hunting. When we talk about, it's such a weird term, AFLs, affluent white female liberals, and TDS, which is obviously Trump derangement syndrome.
Right.
You talk about them being mentally ill. I want to give you an example, and you tell me, is this what you are talking about?
So I am going to spend the next minute screaming, because that is what is going on in here. That is what the trans genocide in this country, in this city, has brought me to. Imagine that!
Very.
Unbelievable, isn't it?
Here's what we
That
know. There's
welcome to
something
America, baby.
there's something called borderline personality disorder. And we got solid research that says they are the most likely to be radicalized. And it's a borderline between psychotic and neurotic. And has no value whatsoever. But here are the symptoms. You tell me. Significant interpersonal relationship instability, acute fear of abandonment, intense emotional outbursts, self-harming behavior, engaging in risky activity. And here's the key: primarily caused by difficulty in regulating emotions. Does that not define what you're looking at with these people? They truly are manifesting mental illness, borderline personality disorder.
Well, explain this as a PhD, because I don't understand
Not
this.
a PhD. I was trying to correct
Oh,
that.
okay, sorry,
Yep.
undoctor but colonel. Thank you. I don't remember this 30 years ago, 40 years ago. When I was in government and we had public hearings, there were very, very strict rules of decorum. And if somebody went 10 seconds over, we turned their mic off. And if somebody was rude, we asked them to leave. And we explained it. Even when people were very disagreeable, they spoke with a certain respect, like, thank you for letting me speak, but I strongly disagree with you. And we go, okay, tell us what you think. And it was an open dialogue. Now it's like the keys to the asylum have been thrown inside and they let themselves out. And not only do we tolerate this behavior, it's spreading everywhere. I see videos every day of city council and county council meetings, and look what happened in this church in Minneapolis or next to Minneapolis, where everybody broke in because they decided it was their First Amendment right to break up a religious service to God, which, by the way, breaks a bunch of laws, right? But there's no decorum anymore. It's just nuts.
It's a social contagion. In time of war, there's a lot of antisocial personality disorder that's turned loose. It's focused. It's done intentionally. But in time of war, a lot of mental illness becomes focused and useful. But it's social contagion. They think it's cool. They're told it's cool. They're told it's good. They're reinforced for it. So what we need to understand is there is a cure. And it's identifying that this is wrong. This is mentally ill. And this is not appropriate behavior. And it goes back to them choosing to be livestock. In the face of evil, the left chooses to be the sheep and not the sheepdog. They really are ill, and self-awareness really can help. Others can see this, know that they are ill, distance themselves from these people. Don't be sucked into their madness. Don't be radicalized like them. Stand up to communism, stand up to socialism, stand up to Islamists, be the sheepdog. And really, Israel is our model for survival. That's why they hate Israel. Again, Americans love dogs. And emotional regulation is the key. Choose to be the sheepdog, not the sheep.
Well, I just don't understand from the perspective of someone that's run these meetings and had been to hundreds of them, literally hundreds, why they let them get away with this. It breaks down the social structure to the point where a woman can go to the microphone and says, I'm going to scream for a minute, and nobody stops her.
And it's a
Like, oh,
reinforcement
yeah,
loop. It becomes cool. It's a social contagion. The more they do it, the more cool it becomes. The more people do it, the more reinforced it becomes. And then they get in their echo chamber. They get in their social media echo chamber and convince themselves that this is a good thing to do. So it really is a social contagion. It really is a mental illness. We need to stand up to it. We need to identify it. We need to stay the hell away from it. And we need
oh
to
boy.
be calm and regulated ourselves. If this is Cold War 2.0, if we're at war, then we got to remain calm, focused, and fight the good fight.
Right on. Right on. A few minutes ago, Colonel, I mentioned Qatar, where um, Tucker Carlson seems to be more at home than in America. There's a new report out that says this is from the Department of Education that tracks this. Qatar has given $6.6 billion to U.S. institutions, Cornell University being the top. They only have a population of 300,000 people. They host Hamas, they direct Hamas, they fund Hamas, and yet they're invited to all these meetings as if they're sort of a neutral party that just wants peace. They're funding Tucker Carlson, who is now moving there, and they are the all-time top donor, literally, of all colleges in America. That to me is startling. And the question, I guess, that everyone is asking is, how do they get away with this? How does Qatar, either definition that you want, get away with this kind of obvious, unfettered bribery? When you look at the place, the wealth is just oozing. Look at these buildings. There's no place on the planet that looks like this. That's Doha. Those are billions and billions in buildings built with mostly imported labor from all over the world. They get these indentured servants basically that come in from the Philippines and India and Malaysia and so on, Pakistan. They take their passports, they live in horrible conditions, and if they break the law, they get, well, disappeared, right? So, like Cornell is talking about I told you they were the number one beneficiary. $3 billion they got in foreign funding over the last reporting period. 2.3 billion came from Qatar, all by itself. So Qatar says when they give that kind of money, we want this chair in the department who we're going to fund forever. It's going to be the chair of Islamic studies or Arab history, or it's going to be the chair of Jews bad, Muslims good, although they don't make it quite that overt. And then they pay for a building, and they pay for the professor, and they pay for the classrooms. And the school goes, okay, great, it's free. We'll teach whatever you want. And the intellectual integrity of these institutions is gone. So when Harvard or Yale or Princeton or Cornell gets fined, the fines are a few $1,000,000 usually. And Qatar's giving them billions. That's petty change. Qatar's
Barry, what if it was 1963 and Russia tried to do that? What if it was 1971 and China tried to do that? We've got a model in place to face this. We need to understand that the Islamic threat, it is not a religion. Islamism is not a religion. It is not cultural. It is not religious. It is political. Islam is a political system, an oppressive political system. It's not about race. It's not about religion. It's about politics, just like communism. So we've been around this block before, and we got models to deal with the same thing in place. Recognize it first as a political system, deal with it just like communism, and then we're on the right foot.
You haven't been on before, but I'm going to make the same speech I've been making for about 20 years, both in public and on the air, which is to anyone that's listening, listen to what Dave just said. Spend $8 and buy a Quran off Amazon, or you can get it on Kindle for free, or sometimes it's 99 cents, and it'll show you the truth of what he just said. It is a book that teaches how to conquer the world. And it's not about lead a good life or whatever. It's how to beat your wife, how to buy and sell slaves, how many women you can have in your home and what you can do to them if they disrespect you. It is a horror story, the likes of which you've never read. And if you can get through it and read all of it and understand that it's against Islamic teaching to change anything in it, because that makes you an apostate, um, you are reading something from 1500 years ago, from the Dark Ages, that literally has a plan to take over the world, eliminate the Jews, eliminate the Christians, eliminate the Buddhists, eliminate the Baha'i, eliminate the Hindus, and just have one system of government, which
Yep.
is governed by Sharia.
Yes.
Isn't it
It,
all there, Dave?
it covers it. It's a political system, just like communism, with the goal of conquering the world. An oppressive, evil political system. They murder gays. They oppress women. And the left, in the face of evil, communism, in the face of mass murderers like Mao and Stalin, the left, in the face of this evil, rolls over and exposes their belly. I wrote the book on hunting. You know, the fundamental decision in every human being, we're hunters. Right up in, if we existed for 24 hours, right up until the last 6 minutes, all we did was hunt. But things hunted us, we hunted things. The fundamental question is, am I being hunted or am I the hunter? And we're never truly happy being hunted. We're only happy when we're hunting, but the left has chosen to be the hunted. It's a biological response. Roll over and expose your belly. Don't do it. Stand up to this evil. We've been around that block. You and I, we fought the Cold War. We won the Cold War against a political system. And that's the same point that you've made over and over again. This is not about religion. It's about politics, and it threatens the survival of our civilization. It's time for a new Cold War, Containment 2.0. It's time to give it a name and a process.
Tulsi Gabbard, the DNI, was right. The threat to the security, future, and stability of the United States is this social structure being pushed on us that we are benignly accepting as, well, it's just another religion, except it's not. Please go buy the book and tell me what you think, because I think it's going to change some minds, and you need to know what we're talking about. If you have retirement money and you have a place to put it, good for you. But if you don't, you should go to Birch Gold and get their free retirement guide. If you click on the screen, you can download it for free. We've arranged with them for you to be able to see what you might be able to do, and you can get on the gold bandwagon before it's too late. You heard it here first. Birch Gold, check them out. You'll be glad you did. Back to the stories. And we were talking about Islam and Sharia. This is getting more and more shocking as more and more of these stories come out. One of the things that Islam teaches is that marrying a child, if you're an older guy, is not only legal because of the Quran, it's now been institutionalized in the law. There are markets now in Baghdad where, this is not a joke, I'm reading the article, where fathers bring their daughters to sell them at auction to much older men. The justification for this nightmarish behavior is that Muslim clerics benefit because they get to grab the brides first, and child bride marriage is in accord with Muhammad's teachings, an example where he married Aisha at the age, they believe, of 6. Here is a girl that is taken at the auction. She's 12 years old. And right after this picture was taken, her father sold her to an older man at highest auction. Her name is Amani, and she was married off to someone that she had never met. She's 12 years old. A local cleric on the spot said that she could be married and that she was old enough to have sex because they checked with the father and she had started puberty. This is disgusting.
It's politics. It's politics. It's not religion. It's political. It's about power. It's about money.
Well, it's we talk about child trafficking. This is to the nth degree of horrible.
Yeah.
And I can't even imagine it. I'm looking at more and more and more of these stories. They pull these daughters out of school starting at the age of 10. They take them to the square when they have the auctions, and the clerics are encouraging it because this is what Muhammad did. This is what Sharia says is okay. And they are, yeah. Well, I can't even imagine is how this can be religious in nature. Does this bring you closer to God, whoever or whatever your God is? Uh, this is satanic. It's demonic. And the idea, it makes me crazy when I see these people, queers for Palestine, gays for Palestine, walking down the street, women for Palestine. This is Islam.
Yes.
This is the religion. I mean, people
No,
forget,
it's not a
and I want
religion.
to.
It's a political system. That's the key.
Yes,
We got to keep
but
picking
but
that
in but
point.
in the West, they say, well, it's just a religion. No,
Right.
it's
And
not.
it's not.
Where the religious police in Tehran before the revolution started a few weeks ago were infamous for driving down the street, seeing a woman walking on the street, a little bit of hair sticking out underneath, not covered, and they would jump out of the car and beat her into unconsciousness sometimes, or beat her, throw her in the back of the car, and she would never be seen again, as an example. And there are many, many, many cases where they've gotten the bodies back, beaten into a pulp. The woman has passed because she violated some interpretation of the Quran.
Beaten to death. Beaten to death. So, Barry, I want to capture this because you said it was so wise. A radical Islam, radical Muslim. If somebody burned the Torah, knock yourself out. Somebody burned the Bible, it's knock yourself out, you idiot. You find me somebody who says burn the Quran. So what? That is radical Muslim, and they don't exist. They'll kill you. They will just kill you. And it'd be good to talk about what's coming with Iran, because here's our Cold War 2.0 again. We saw the collapse of former Yugoslavia. And I just tell you, one of the possible, we see the Kurds in action already. I think it's going to be like Oprah Winfrey. Kurdistan, you get a nation. Azeristan, you get a nation. Luristan, you get a nation. Turkmenistan, you get a nation. Baluchistan, you get a nation. The collapse of former Yugoslavia, the bombing campaign that's coming, that might be one of the plans. The Kurds are already in action. Let's see what happens. But we live in amazing times. And thank God we got a president who means what he says most of the time, and has stood up in the face of this evil political system that threatens our existence.
And the evil just grows and spreads like a cancer because in most cases, there's no fence up, except as what we said in Poland and in Hungary, and it's changing in Italy. And in other cases, they ban the parties that want to stop it, like in France, like in Holland.
Or in England, they'll put you in jail when you say online that you don't support it.
Oh, a guy said he was going to burn the Quran. They arrested him, and he's in jail.
Yeah.
He's in jail for burning a book. Actually, I don't even know if he burned the book. I think he said he was going to. So attempted burning.
Yeah.
So as we speak right now, there are American planes being tracked from all over the world, headed towards the Middle East. It's a monster transfer of material. The big cargo planes are flying. The tankers are flying. CENTCOM is repositioning, I should say, vast numbers of, shall we say, people, weapons, planes, and the big news is whether or not the B-2s are coming. So if you remember from what happened, this is a B-2 Spirit. They don't have to be repositioned. They literally fly, unbelievable, nonstop from the United States to Iran, get refueled in the air. They're up there for what is it, 37-hour round trip. They're invisible to radar. They carry a tremendous amount of armament, big, heavy, ground penetrating bunker buster bombs. No one knows when they're coming because they're not announced and they're not repositioned. However, um, the biggest news is the Lincoln Carrier Group is just now arriving on station. As people know who watch this channel, I was lucky enough to spend several days at sea on the Lincoln. I was flown out and as a guest of the captain and the XO, wore my Lincoln hat on the air the other day. It was a big honor to be on the flight deck all night and during the day to see flight operations. And that carrier group is surrounded by destroyers and accompanied under the water by a nuclear submarine, Ohio class, that is unnamed and not identified, either where it is or its name. If I was Iran and I knew what was coming, I would get my act together. So they're falling in line. They threatened to kill Trump yesterday, again. And so Trump, on his way to Davos, has to say, if there's an attempt of assassination on me, instructions are given to destroy the entire country of Iran. Unfortunately, that doesn't seem to scare them very much. When I say them, I mean the mullahs that are running the place, because they are running an apocalyptic view of the world. And if they die fighting against the non-believers, there's a special place in paradise. So I want you to explain this to me. There were reports that I was reading right before we came on the air today, Colonel, that said the executions have not stopped. Now it's horrible, but they're people that are shot, they put them in body bags and suffocate them. They go into hospitals and they look for people with gunshot wounds or were hit by pellets in the street, and they execute them in the hospitals. So those aren't technically executions. Trump made this goofball speech where he said, this is not a joke, I'm so glad the execution stopped. We can probably handle this diplomatically. Whoa. Meanwhile, Trump was encouraging the demonstrations in the street, to the millions of people that took to the streets in every province and every major city that were being slaughtered. What is Trump's next move?
All we can do is try to judge by past behavior. We saw what happened in Venezuela. We saw the initial bomb of the Israel-American 12-day war. And it really does come back to the Cold War. Look what happened to former Yugoslavia. Look at 1999, NATO's bombing campaign in Kosovo. And something very similar could be happening. We'll see them take down their drones. We'll see them take down the nation. We'll take down their police stations. We take down their military bases. Just a systematic bombing campaign is possible. Trump, it could be misdirection. We don't know. But if we judge him by his previous actions, he is man of his word. And truly, we already see the Kurds in action. Channel your inner Oprah Winfrey. Think of the collapse of Yugoslavia, the collapse of the Soviet Union. Kurdistan, you get a nation. Waziristan, you get a nation. Luristan, you get a nation. Turkmenistan, Baluchistan, you get your own nation. And something very similar could be in the plans right now. I pray that it's so. I think that when we look at the Balkan nations as they are now, who knew who knew what those nations were once upon a time, and yet they've been stable, they've been solid, and something very similar could be in play right now. We've got that model in there at Cold War. And what we did to Yugoslavia could be very much what we're going to do to Iran.
Let me ask you this. I appreciate your hypothetical nature. Let's say things change suddenly and you went from retired lieutenant colonel to president, and you had the support of your vice president and the support of the military, and you were in charge for a couple of days. What would Colonel Dave do with Iran right now?
Declare a new Cold War, Cold War 2.0, containment. No more, and That no more immigration from Muslim nations. Period. Containment. And what I do to Iran is truly turn the Kurds loose, turn the Lurs loose, learn the Turkmenistans loose, give them their own nation. Baluchistan, give them all their own nation, support them, do exactly what we did to former Yugoslavia, what we did to former Soviet Union, break it down to its component parts, and put good people in charge. And do it all. Look what happened. We did it in Yugoslavia without putting Americans on the ground. The collapse of the Soviet Union without putting Americans on the ground. It's doable. It truly is.
So let's be more specific. What would President Colonel Grossman do today with Iran? You know everything. What would you do?
We would bomb them and destroy their structure. We would support the groups that are rising up. We break them into their component parts, like we did to the former Yugoslavia. We do what we did in the bombing campaign in Kosovo. We have a model in place. Cold War 2.0.
Got it. Dave, thanks so much for joining us today. Where can people learn more about you, your books, what you write? Where can they go?
Well, GrossmanOnTruth.com, www.GrossmanOnTruth.com. Personalize all my books. Amazon. I've got 2 books, Marine Corps Commandant's Required Reading List, on killing, on combat, on hunting, on spiritual combat. A great following on my audiobooks. And now I've been able to be on one of the most important podcasts in America. Happy man. God bless.
Glad we got to have you today. God bless you too. Remember, those of you out there in ATP land that are not on our mailing list, go to findberry.com. It'll take you to American Truth Project. You can sign up for our mailing list for free. Go to Instagram, go to Facebook, go to X, go to YouTube. We're everywhere. Sign up. You get all the content for free. We will be back again next week, the same time, the same bat channel. We appreciate you joining us today. And for now, we'll see you next week.
God bless America.
Have a great one.